Hey guys, thank you for dropping in to watch this video, I really appreciate it. In today's video I have a Super Famicom, that's a Japanese Super Nintendo with a Super CIC mod. I've done many of these mods over the years and I thought this would be a good opportunity to get an updated video and talk about some of the things that I've experienced over the years and a couple of the common questions that I might get about these units, and also I'll demonstrate the system working and I'll show you the inside, the mod work itself. So some people do ask to see the mod work and I can give you a first-hand look at this mod work. Yeah, and basically the process that I go through to make one of these units and get it ready for sale. So a fair bit goes into it and I like to be sure that I provide a good quality unit. So as you probably already know, if you've searched Super CIC, you know what they do, but a basic overview is it's a replacement of the lockout chip that's in all of these units. There's a different lockout chip for a PAL unit, and there's a different lockout chip for an NTSC unit. And basically what the CIC does, it allows the region game to play on that particular console. So by default, if this was an unmodified unit, this would only work with Japanese Super Famicom games and the PCB of an American Super Nintendo. But the American Super Nintendo cartridges are physically a different shape and they don't fit in here unless you modify the shell or get a cartridge extender. So the Super CIC completely replaces that and allows you to play your PAL games on an NTSC unit. So I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, so let's just get into demonstrating the system working. So Super Famicom unit here. I'll put a Aussie game in here, which is a PAL, as probably everyone is aware of by now. I'll turn it on and straight away it's a different colored LED, which is a blue. Now blue light on the Super CICs that I do is 60 Hertz mode. So basically the Super CIC detects that this is a PAL game. It will start at 50 Hertz for 9 seconds and it'll change over to 60 Hertz. So as you can see, it's working. That's really cool. One thing that I like to point out about PAL games is that they don't all work perfectly at 60 Hertz. You might ask yourself, why is that? Well, basically, PAL 50 Hertz runs approximately 20%, or I actually think it's 17.5% slower than an NTSC console. So a lot of gamers didn't like that, and the games running that slow become unplayable. So a lot of the developers actually optimize the 50 Hertz game to run correctly, the correct speed at 50 Hertz. But then when you run it at 60 Hertz, you will get flashing. You might notice this flashing here. It might be different from game to game. Not all optimized PAL games have these issues, but I thought I'd point that out. To fix that, you just have to run it at 50 Hertz. So you hold down the reset button and the LED changes, and we want it to go to red, which is 50 Hertz. And now that is working perfectly. But is it? It's not really working. You can see it's not really working perfectly. Now I'm using composite video on this. And as a lot of retro gamers know, composite video is pretty rubbish. That's basically your yellow, your white, and your red cables. Why is it black and white? Well, this is an NTSC unit, and 50 Hertz NTSC is an invalid format, and a lot of TVs, this one here, for example, shows you a black and white picture because it can't lock on to the correct color burst frequency NTSC 50 Hertz. This is probably a lot of techno jargon that a lot of people might not be interested in, but you can fix it. You can get a correct oscillator to allow the color correction. I don't offer that myself because I'm not really happy with the results. However, there are ways to get it in color. You can use the much better RGB, and RGB doesn't use the color burst frequency that composite video uses. And then you get the full color. Perfect. You got the perfect console then. You got RGB, which is a much clearer picture because it separates the color, the RGB, into separate lines, and you get the 50 Hertz color. So, yep. Also, another option is you can use a component, do a component mod, and then you get the correct color. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is I have this cartridge here, which is an SD2 SNES, which is a multi-cartridge. You can load games onto an SD card. and I'm going to do a burn-in test. And basically the burn-in test will allow you to see if there's any failures with the unit. It checks all the, like the APU, checks the CPU, checks the PPUs, checks the RAM and such. So I like to do this for all my consoles, so I know that I am providing a fully working unit. I haven't tested this on this console yet, so this might be interesting. Obviously, you want to see all the passes. If you get a failure, then you know you got a problem. As you can see, this unit here has passed all the tests, so it's ready to go. And another thing is I've verified the controller port is working. All right, let's give you a demonstration on the inside of this unit. As you might notice, the shell was lifting up there because I have removed the screws. So I'm just going to pause this and I'll show you the inside. Okay, now we've got the lid cracked open and we can have a better look at the actual mod work. Doesn't look like there's a lot going on, does it? That's because I like to think that I am neat in my mod work, and if there's not many wires, then you know it's been a pretty good job. Alright, so first thing you probably noticed, there's a LED light that's been changed. So the stock LED light is red. I use a red and a blue LED, so that will give you a combination of red, blue and purple. So Supercic has 3 modes. You have 50 Hz, 60 Hz and auto mode. Alright, so I'll just lift this shell up. Sorry, this RF thing. Now, also it doesn't look like there's a lot going on in here either. Now, what I've done here is I've lifted 2 legs on these 2 PPUs. So it's PPU 2 and PPU 1. On PPU 1, I lift leg 24, and on PPU 2, I lift leg 30. So, give you a closer look at that. And then basically, that controls your 50-60 Hz. So, you got ground and 5 volts for the 50-60 Hz. It's one continuous wire that goes from PPU 1 to PPU 2, and then I route that wire underneath the PPU, and it goes into a via under the board on the underside of the Super Nintendo motherboard to the Supercic, which you'll see in a moment. Now over here we have the original, where the original CIC was. To do this mod you need to remove that CIC, and you can remove the, if you like, you can remove the capacitor there, C62. You don't need C62 there if you are using a Supercic, because that capacitor was for the original CIC. Now, make sure that we have power cycle this unit, which you always want to do when you open up a Super Nintendo. And let's have a look at the underside. I'll put this back on here because I'm going to lift this over here. Alright, so this is how I do it. I like to keep wires really short. Basically, what you can see there is the vias where the original CIC was. So the Supercic, you obviously have to wire where the original CIC was. And I like to think that's a nice way of doing it, just simply because you're keeping the wires short and you're keeping it on the underside of on the motherboard, and everything's out of the way. Okay, that's pretty much it. Thank you for staying into this video or continuing on to watch this video. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys. Bye.